This is a clouds weather alert.
Meteorologist Casey Cloud back here in the Weather Center on a Thursday morning, cutting back in because we're watching a strong storm in Levy County. Generally, I wouldn't come on just for a typical strong storm, but we're seeing some rotation within here. The Doppler radar, both out of Jacksonville and out of Tampa, it's kind of murky, and we're in a bad spot within the radar. Is really looking higher up, but with the increase in lightning here and it's moving toward a more populated area, I wanted to jump in, and with the tornado watch in play as well, for Levy, for Marion, for Putnam, and for Flagler until 4. We have that potential down here. Tornado watch is about to expire toward Dixie County, it looks like, and over toward Taylor County, some of those zones in that yellow. But as we're looking toward the south, that's where the threat's going to start to really maybe manifest itself here as we look ahead in the timeline. And we're just seeing this toward Williston Highlands over the next little bit. You see some greens and reds. They're actually a little bit tighter a moment ago, but it's just so murky in here. And there's just quite a bit of lightning in the general vicinity, indicating maybe at least a strong storm in here, I would say. And speaking of a strong storm, they just went with a significant weather advisory to the National Weather Service in Tampa. I hadn't had one on there yet, but just seeing some things within the radar is so high up we're having to look because there's not good radar covered out here. We really don't know what's going on. And with what we already had earlier out there toward Georgia, toward the Derwin area, we had a tornado touchdown with pretty good radar coverage probably before or right when the tornado warning was being issued. I just want to err on the side of caution here with this tornado watch in play, and folks, just having to be kind of extra careful down here because of this poor radar coverage toward Williston Highlands here over the next little bit. You can see some greens here, winds going toward the Doppler in Jacksonville. Again, we're up really high, so we're not able to see what's really happening at the surface. And if there was a tornado on the ground, we wouldn't really be able to see if there was a debris signature that would be emerging, because it would have to be too strong of a tornado really to emerge, because you would have to get the debris to 10,000 feet, and that's really unlikely here in this type of setup at this point as we're getting towards some of these areas here. It's unlikely for many spots in our area generally here to get a tornado with debris to 10,000 feet. I mean, in our Florida zones, at least Georgia, we've seen it more so. But again, you can see here red wind about 25 away from the radar. Again, seeing someone going toward the radar as well. So, I mean, this could be in theory gate to gate. A circulation of about 60-mile-an-hour winds, so maybe some damaging wind in here if we don't have a tornado that is trying to emerge. Again, no formal warning. I generally don't like doing this here, just kind of coming on for stronger storms without a warning, but this is such a murky radar picture here, folks. There's a increase in lightning we've been noting over the last little bit. We've seen the rotation, just kind of seeing some things here that would present that smaller tornado threat, at least into the picture here with this cell. It's something that really just, we don't know for sure what's going on at the surface. I did notice the infrared satellite cloud tops there. They were getting colder in this area as well. So we'll kind of go over to some other views on that here now. Kind of give you that. You actually can see that even a little bit better now. It kind of shows more off toward Williston. I mean, the worst isn't quite there yet, but I'll switch it on over. You can see what I'm talking about here. Some colder cloud tops as well. So just something that we're watching here in Levy County. So I know it's a different weather service between Levy and Alachua, and sometimes we'll have a situation where Levy won't have a warning because Levy's covered by Tampa, but then maybe Alachua, which is covered by Jacksonville, has a tornado warning. So also important to kind of give you guys a heads up there that we could get a tornado warning, if not in Levy County, but for parts of maybe of Alachua County here over the next little bit. Again, it's a situation I generally don't like doing here where we just cut in for a strong storm, but just a scenario really here that presents itself where I think we need to right now, because just a murky picture on the radar is something that, I mean, we wouldn't be able to confirm a tornado here, but we also, I don't think, completely could rule one out, because we've seen it before. We had it earlier this year where a tornado just really went under that radar there as we were looking toward Marion County, a pretty significant one, and we just don't want history to repeat itself here. Again, it's nothing that's just overwhelming, and there's no formal warning, but we just want to be on for a few minutes with this as we're looking in this area. I mean, you wouldn't be able to see the debris. It would not be that strong if we had something, but again, such bad radar coverage over here. We're just not really sure exactly what's going on. And with the increase in lightning, the colder cloud tops, the rotation, I think we could at least have a severe type of wind gust situation out of this, if not something a little bit more. It's a possibility at least. So we're just watching. We're just tracking it for you here in the Weather Center this morning. We're seeing some of these lightning strikes pop up closer, it looks like, toward southeast 52nd Street here. Also getting up toward, it looks like as I zoom on in here on my source behind the scenes, State Highway 121. So again, just kind of keeping our eyes on things here this morning. Some heavier downpours near southeast 143rd Avenue there. And you can kind of see as we track this up toward Williston, you guys could be next in line. But right now, we're watching more toward the Williston Highlands area here with this movement over the next little bit. Again, it's not really that impressive, but I know we're getting updates here in the chat from Tallahassee about some different surveys that are going to be done from the suspected tornado damage, with one crew evaluating Franklin into Wakulla, and the second crew will be evaluating damage in Colquitt County there near the Doe Run area. So they provide more thorough information on those surveys and what they found later on in terms of EF rating and things of that sort, where they kind of evaluate the damage and take that into consideration, and then that's how they rate the tornado, whether on the tornadoes, whether they're EF zeros, EF ones, might have a mixture there. Something in that range, though, is what we would expect here based on what we've heard so far. But we'll just continue to watch that situation there as those surveys come on in. Again, we're watching some other storms as well. Let's not just go ahead and focus on this one, but we'll go ahead and focus on some other action as well, because there is some more robust action. I'll have to switch to Tampa for this one, but we've really been watching the circulation here. And I know we were talking about it earlier. I mean, you can really see that spin there on the Doppler radar here on this Tampa view, and you still can see it. But we were talking about how the threat was going to be a little more maximized here toward west central Florida and central Florida based on some of the parameters. And Storm Prediction Center agrees with that tornado watch being issued down toward the south. So again, just kind of watching things here. You see the greens and reds trying to come together. They're maybe not quite as robust looking, these areas of spin, as they were a moment ago, and we'll just have to see how things kind of translate as they get further on in. But quite a bit of lightning out here as well, and the Tampa radar on this area here, you see some wind enhancement, gust to 19 toward Williston here. That is from, it looks like, about 8:55, so just the last few moments here toward that area. So just kind of watching here. I mean, we may have had a little bit tighter spin down here a few moments ago based on what I'm seeing on this, but it's again so murky, you can't really issue a warning on this, but you can't rule out anything either. We're on that range folding side of things really as we're getting into that area. I know that's a technical term, but it means really that we're just not able to see good in terms of the wind velocity values. This is off of Tampa, a little closer on Jacksonville now, and we're able to get a clear enough picture where I thought maybe there's something in there that we just need to cut in for to kind of keep you guys safe here this morning. So again, it's just so uncertain because we're in that bad spot on the radar. But I know we're just getting reported in out of the chat session of an estimated gust there around 40 miles an hour at the Levy County Public Safety Complex, 7 miles south of Bronson, about 15 minutes ago. So 7 miles south of Bronson, 15 minutes ago. We'll back this up a little and kind of see. And I know we've been skipping radars, so let me go and make sure I load all the latest images in, so don't confuse you guys out here this morning as we're watching towards Levy County. But again, we're just going to go ahead and check some things here as we are covering Levy County, which is one of our 62 counties. That's what we're on. It's one of our counties. If you're wondering, we're not on. This is not a national thing where we're cutting in for strong storms. This is a local thing, one of our counties here in our primary zone where we cut in for all tornado warnings issued. And that's what we're on right now on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch, just in case something happens here. This is what we were looking at there about 8:48 or so. That's 12 minutes ago. And then you can see there we're looking at some of this action here about 15 minutes ago. I want to kind of measure the distance on our other source right now. Just give me a moment. That's south of Bronson toward Gulf Hammock. And that's about 12 miles or so. So not the exact area, but maybe a vicinity at least where we were getting the gust, though. It's possible we could add a little bit stronger wind there as we were kind of looking here, just in a little bit of a different spot. So if you see that kind of move on in, it's possible it could have been more from this type of radar view versus what we were seeing a moment ago in terms of the distance, proximity, and the time frame, the interconnection really. So it might have been more around this time frame here and this radar view, and maybe gusts just within 40 there or so might be the case versus something a little bit higher, but it's just so murky in here. You just don't know. I mean, you really don't know here until after the fact. And we've had this issue so many times in Marion and Levy here since we've been doing cloud weather the last few years. Since we weren't on doing cut-ins, I just thought we needed to jump in here to let you guys know that there is something down there. We have to watch it for a lot, because Jacksonville office could see this differently and issue a tornado warning. This happened before. They see the rotational areas here differently and think they need a tornado warning, or maybe a severe thunderstorm warning with a tornado possible tag might be what they go with. So that's something we got to watch here over the next little bit. I'm just monitoring things here. I'm checking the chat session here this morning, trying to get the latest updates in on what's going on here. No formal warning right now, but just watching this murky pattern. Let's get back over and come out the wind pattern on the velocity. But let's go ahead and go back over toward the Jacksonville site now. We're loading that in, so it'll be up in just a moment. But let's go ahead and go to some of these colder cloud tops again. Let's see if I can get maybe a better updated view here. See if we have some, yeah, we got the Mezzo over here. So let me go ahead and go to that view, the Mezzo satellite view. So this says the infrared satellite here with the colder cloud tops in this area. Some more of that accent though toward the south, even quite a bit colder off of Homosassa Springs there and Newport Richey. That could really be something to watch as we look ahead because that is kind of still in more of an equal type of scenario here in terms of the distribution, because what I mean by that is the radar sometimes when we're looking further away from something, you're not going to be able to see things as good, but with this goes satellite, everything's going to be seen the same per se. So this stuff down here will be a little bit stronger than what we're seeing to the north, but to the north we are seeing the colder cloud tops, and that's something to take note of. I know I've been measuring some different things out here on the screen, so you might have saw that little orange box a moment ago. It was just me doing some different things, but this is showing some nastier acts. I'm moving into toward Williston, at least quite a bit of lightning there. I'm moving into toward the Williston area right now here. Yeah, so we'll just kind of keep our eyes on that here over the next few minutes. Checking our different radars again. It looks more murky now in Jacksonville, which is good. When I mean more murky, not just more murky, but more disorganized, really. It's been murky down here, and it's staying murky. It's just more disorganized. The pixels here, you can see how we had more greens and reds trying to come together, and now we're seeing more of a broadened picture. So that might be a better indicator of how things are going here. But we'll just see what the Jacksonville office decides to do, whether they go with a significant weather advisory or a thunderstorm warning or nothing, or even maybe a chance of a tornado warning here. That seems to be dropping a little bit though, with that much broader type of wind pattern that we're seeing now in the storm relative velocity. Again, it's so tricky down here. It's a guessing game pretty much. It's just the nature of things with how the radars are set up. And I mean, this was done years ago when the radars were set up, and it cost a lot of money to have radars. So it's just a situation. I mean, we just kind of have to be erring on the side of caution on it. I just know what happened back in March, and I just want to make sure everybody's staying safe down here in Levy County this morning. So that's why we're on with you here for at least a few more minutes. If I see the trend kind of continuing here, I might go ahead and wrap this update up, but we don't have any formal warnings here at this point, so that's the good news. But we have to watch more of this action to the south because we saw the colder cloud tops. I'll give that a Tampa radar here now, and you'll be able to see how some of this action is trying to come in. The rotations aren't quite as strong as they were, but they're still maybe strong enough to present an issue for Citrus, Hernando, maybe into Levy and Marion. We'll have to wait and see. That's something to kind of watch here through the morning. We'll be watching it for you here in the Weather Center, so to keep you guys safe and informed. Again, we have the tornado watch that was just expired up toward Dixie and Jefferson and Lafayette, Madison, Taylor, and toward Berry and Brooks, Cook, Lanier, and Lowndes. But we have this threat continuing toward areas further south. Let's go to that broad view of the actual watch area. I'll go to our Florida view. I think that might give you guys a good perspective on where the tornado watch is now. And I'll put the radar on here as well as we go ahead and switch back. You can see here now the tornado watch, and I'll take the radar off for a second. You can see where that yellow area is, where the tornado threat is now at this point, pretty much towards dark. Things have just not materialized like we were expecting. We were talking about this earlier, how the squall line is kind of really more disorganized toward the north here. So that's definitely some good news here. We're not going to probably see severe weather toward Lake City or Keystone or Stark at this point. So that's the good news. Gainesville, we're still not 100% sure because of this track. I mean, here, and I suppose we still have a chance. I don't want to completely rule things out because of this trajectory here with this one here. It's a little bit tricky because we have to kind of look at things. I mean, you see our pattern here. In theory, could take it up further up, and I guess it could try to do something further to the north here as it still try to hold together, maybe up there further toward Bradford, possibly, but it's hard to say for sure. Again, when we have, I said this earlier, when we have murky radar patterns, really, it makes things hard in a lot of ways. I mean, really kind of tough to see how it's going on, even with a track on some of this accent here. So, again, you see Williston, the gust earlier 19, and some of the worst of the wind may be getting in that area now. So, may get a higher gust here in a few moments. We'll see, maybe closer to 40 based on the indications I'm seeing. And somewhere in that range of possibility. Even this is somewhere a little bit higher, but we're so high up here on the radar, and that may be a little bit of a misnomer there, but it looks like it might be intensifying on that mode. But let's go to Jacksonville again. Kind of have to just go between the radar. That one's a little bit closer, even more so than it was a few moments ago. So again, we just have to continue to watch everything here for you. Let me go ahead and go back on over right now to our other mode. Again, you see that lightning right around Williston there now, in toward eastern and northeastern Levy County. So we're watching that here for you. We're monitoring that situation, and we'll just kind of see how things progress on us. I know it's just kind of interesting to watch these radar trends for sure, just to kind of see how things set on up here. We just want to make sure that everybody's staying safe here this morning. I know it looks really, really murky and broad, again, on the side out of Jacksonville. So that's some good news for sure as we watch this trend and watch this track of the strong accent. No official warnings in play, but some strong storm accent toward Levy County. Just kind of catching us here with a little bit of concern. So we just want to be careful here down toward this area. You see Bronson, maybe some gustier winds in there as possible. But then on our base velocity, you do see the wind turn up a little bit more. But a lot of this probably isn't reaching because that's just the broad wind pattern. You can kind of see it to the south, and it gets so high up that probably wouldn't necessarily be reaching. But it is a strong storm that we're paying attention to, moving off toward the northeast at 35 miles an hour, according to the Weather Service there in Tampa, with a significant weather advisory in place. So just kind of watching this here, watching the overall wind pattern. I'm checking some things behind the scenes right now. If you guys are kind of wondering where I'm going here on our systems. I'm just seeing how power outages are looking. I'm going to go ahead and step off real quick and check some different things here in the Weather Center. So just bear with me here this morning. As we do that, I know it's just kind of interesting to get an idea of the power outage numbers as we're looking toward Levy County. It looks like some of these numbers here have not really gone up from what I was seeing a few moments ago, but we'll just have to continue to watch them. A few outages here and there, but nothing overwhelming there toward Levy County at this point. So that's the good news. Again, stick with you here for just a little longer. We're only seeing 26 customers in the dark, but not all the customers are even tracked down there with the electrical grid. So again, that's something to bear in mind as well. I mean, looking at things here, we just kind of have to keep our eyes on the situation down there and watch these stronger wind accent toward Williston and eventually up toward Archer, maybe some of those areas upstream. So we'll just kind of be watching that here in the Weather Center for you. It's about 9:10 right now on this Thursday morning. No official warning, but that tornado watch is remaining in effect here. Remaining in effect until 4 o'clock. It won't need to last that long in our coverage area, though. Kind of talk about this with a timeline. I mean, by 1 o'clock or so, the threats had have subsided already, even in Flagler County. But we'll be watching toward Orlando and Tampa because the more favorable atmosphere and the characteristics could be kind of upon them in the Wardell region. So we'll be kind of paying attention to all that here in the Weather Center as well. Again, looking at some of these areas of rotation over the Gulf of Mexico right now, and you see this, the broad rotation that's showing up around Williston. Part of that's because we're looking so high up, but it does look more broad and more weak here in nature. But we do have a little bit of wind enhancement, at least around Williston at this point. So it looks more like a strong storm at this point, I would say, versus anything greater than that. So that's the good news. We're just going to continue to watch things here. And monitor the situation. If we get some warnings here, we'll be back on to let you guys know about them here as we kind of just see real quick before I wrap it up to see if we get anything out of the office there in Jacksonville. I know, may get something for Alachua and Marion with some type of advisory, or maybe not. They may be waiting for the wind reading to come out of the Williston airport area there, because that could kind of help us out a little bit on where to go even with this. So they'll be kind of looking at that observation, I'm sure, to kind of make their decision on how to kind of approach this here over the next little bit. The winds on the velocity, they don't look like they're all that pronounced. You saw again a little bit more to the south. We're so very far away from the radar. Made things tough on us here. I'm making things tough on everybody, but you can kind of see now a more broader wind look at things. So that's kind of what we're dealing with right now. You see here, you see Archer, you see maybe, I mean, again, the path is something that's been kind of hard to discern to some degree, but you kind of see here some of the worst has been going off a little bit more to the east, so maybe more like Micanopy versus Archer, with some of the worst of this, but there's still heavy rain for sure headed up toward Archer over the next few moments, and even some lightning there showing up as well. Not as much either. That's another point, and that might be kind of going to, so this is weakening off some, because we had more lightning toward the south than we do right now. There's still some of this showing up though, for sure, but it seemed like we had a little more lightning with this a few moments ago. As we were looking back at that, we're definitely seeing that was the case here further off toward the south and west. We're not really getting any lightning further up toward the north, if you guys are wondering. As they go back on over to the other perspective here, you're just not seeing that. But we didn't really get any lightning with that tornado that touched down, apparent tornado that touched down there toward areas there, toward Doe Run in Georgia. So you just never know. We watch and we'll be tracking. Still tornado watch reports of our area toward Levy, toward Marion, toward Putnam and Flagler. We'll be seeing that threat subside as we get toward the early afternoon hours, and still paying attention toward areas downstream in the state, toward Tampa and Orlando though. So keep it here to cloud weather. We'll be back if necessary. See the cool air trying to come in. Tallahassee areas at points north and west of there. One more area to the south, and that could kind of help fuel some of this potential as we have some of those tornado parameters in play here. And then we also have some of those energy values here that are trying to kind of work their way in. You see that ton there of instability. That'll be something to watch here. So keep it tuned here. We'll be back as necessary. But for now, thanks so much for tuning in and trusting me. We're not going to have a formal update tonight. So if we, excuse me, if we don't have to come back on here before the end of the day today here with any type of special civilian coverage, the next time you'll see me is on Tuesday. No formal update tonight, but our next formal update is planned for Tuesday, but we may have to be back for some coverage later on if we get some warnings, or even if we need a stream for some of the action towards Central Florida. We're watching that here as well to see if we get some tornadic action to get going, and maybe an area that's a little more favorable for it based on some of the model guidance toward West Central Florida. So that's something to keep an eye on.